Hey everybody, welcome to the Book Leads Impactful Books for Life and Leadership. I'm your series host and leadership performance coach, John Jaramillo. This podcast series is about getting to the books that have impacted the lives and the work of the people in my network. So these are great leads to get to those books that have made the biggest difference in their lives, the biggest impact on their lives, their work, whoever it is, whatever ecosystem they're operating in, all those worlds intersect. And my guest today is Karen Senteio. And Karen is an executive coach, trainer, facilitator, and founder of Karen Senteio Consulting. With over 30 years of experience in corporate, academic, government, medical, and nonprofit environments, she partners with leaders looking to open their hearts and minds to a different way of thinking and leading. She helps leaders activate their internal compass to embody authenticity, inspiration, and courage as daily practices. She works with leaders to create innovative cultures that deliver results powered by connection, engagement, and inclusion. And she works with leaders committed to fostering environments where people can do their best work, access their strengths and talents, and create a scaffolding needing to succeed. Her corporate experience provides a unique backdrop to her coaching practice, providing a lens into individuals' many workplace and home challenges. She co-created and facilitated a highly successful coaching and mentoring workshop for leaders, training over 350 leaders from middle management to executives and facilitating post-workshop coaching and mentoring support. And this is now the second time I've had Karen on the series. She was on with me early on in episode 31, where we covered the book, A Culture of Safety, Building a Work Environment Where People Can Think, Collaborate, and Innovate by Alla Weinberg. My conversation with Karen on that book was July 2022. And then I was lucky enough to reach out to Alla and have her on for the book, for her own book, in episode 42. And that was in March of 2023. So that was pretty early on in this series, Karen. So it was amazing to get your take on that book. And I remember it was a small book, and you said it was just impactful in terms of what it covered for psychological safety. So it was amazing to get your take on it. And that was the first time that I had a guest cover a book. And then I was able to reach out to the author and see where all of that came from. So I thank you for the conversation then. I thank you for referring me to Alla, and I thank you for coming back again today. Thank you.
God. No problem. And John, that book is still impactful. It's a 30-minute read, and I still use it. I still use it with all my clients because it's still relevant today, even more today, I think.
Oh, absolutely. It's incredible how you and I spoke in 2022, almost, a little over 3 years now, and the environment around us is just that much more different. Mm-hmm. We're talking about global affairs, but that leaks into the workplace. Just the temperature in the room around the globe is just so high. Mm-hmm. It's incredible how we can either read a book or talk about a book a year apart, 2 years apart, 3 years apart. And like you said, there's more need for that kind of book today than there was back then, and how quickly the world can shift relatively quickly.
Yeah, I've been thinking about the term zeitgeist, and I look at it almost like zeitgeist energy. And zeitgeist means the spirit of a particular time, the ideas, beliefs, culture, the actions.
Yeah.
And I think right now we're in such a complicated time in our country. And I think that complication leaks into all aspects of our lives, our personal lives, who we are in the workplace. So when I look at reading, when I look at books, I look at it from the perspective of what energy does it bring to the conversation. Yeah.
I always think about, and always, especially since picking up this podcast, starting this, launching this, I always think of energy and what that means. But I never really thought about it the way that you just talked about it. Was just when I pick something up, what does this contribute or take away from that energy that I'm curious about? And I think as we get older, we appreciate, we don't take for granted as much that energy. And we're not talking about physical energy, being able to run a mile or any of that stuff. We're talking about just like the vibe, the frequency, people's intentions, what they bring to a room or a conversation, right?
Yeah, what do you bring to a room or conversation, and even a relationship? And I think in the work that I do with leaders, who are you in that conversation? Who are you in that workplace? Who are you to that person? And who are you to yourself first? So I read about zeitgeist. The first time I heard about it was in an article in Harvard Business Review. And when I started thinking about it, I said, zeitgeist, who are the folks that usher in those changes in cultures, like a Steve Jobs? And I started being more creative. And I said, who else has zeitgeist energy? I think someone like a Taylor Swift, Beyonce. And zeitgeist energy doesn't necessarily have to mean positive, but we get to choose. And it's really about choice. So that zeitgeist energy, what do you choose to bring to the world?
Yeah, I'm just speechless because it's between technology, shifting views, unrest, from demographic differences to income inequality to environmental, all the topics that are covered in politics are experienced by the world citizens. Like everything is just seemingly, it seems to me like it's off the charts. What's incredible is people are wondering how to make changes, how to impact that. They're worried that they can't. It's almost like you have to start with your community around you, what you can really impact. But yeah, we dove in deep on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when it comes to leadership, it's the complication or the difficulty in that is that you have to handle that. You're having a personal experience.
Yeah.
And you have a huge responsibility to folks that you work with, folks that report to you, and to be able to manage that and help them navigate through that. And also with our families, it doesn't stop there. The tentacles are wide and long,
far-reaching,
complicated. It's like that movie, Everywhere. What is it? Everything, Everywhere, All at
Once.
All
at once. Yeah.
That describes our experience right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we hit record, we had talked about how leadership is not limited to your leadership role. It's not limited to the workplace where you are. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about it in terms of the context for your series, your online series, the Stiletto Dialogues. You were talking about how you're going to bring it back and you want to keep it interesting. You don't want to keep it to, the way we all kind of talk about that. We don't want to just keep it to the business of coaching, but you want to have like real human impactful conversations.
That's right.
And because like you and I said, it's not just about the checkbox of leadership when you're in that role, like who you are as a person,
That's right.
what you're taking in, how you're contributing, all of that infuses and informs your leadership. So
Absolutely.
Like you said, everything, everywhere, all at once, you can't separate who you are at work in your role versus who you are as a human. It's, especially with technology these days, everything is so ubiquitous. Everything's around us all at once.
Absolutely. And it's our choice to either elevate or bring down the human experience. And that's our choice here on Earth School, for lack of a better word.
Earth School, I like that.
Earth School. We're here on Earth School.
We all get one life. You never know when it's going to stop. And you have to determine what it is you want to contribute, what you want to take out of this life, and what steps you're going to take to implement that. I think so many of us are just so passive. We go home, we go to work, we pay the bills, but there's more if you want to, if you're curious enough to learn about. I think so many people go through life not knowing and not thinking that they can make any kind of impact. They're just not aware of it.
Yeah, I think that's the challenge right now. I think folks feel stuck. So when the world is very complicated and the change is so fast, I think our initial thought is to try to keep pace with that,
Yes.
So when the world is crazy and moving fast, maybe the thing to do is to slow it down for a second for yourself so that you can decide what's in your best interest to do.
We haven't even jumped into the questions. We haven't even mentioned the book or jumped into the book. But what does that look like for you, Karen? Quickly before we jump into all this other stuff, What does that look like for you in that, in just like that world of, it's chaos. Chaos doesn't have to be maddening or bad or anything like that. It's chaos. There's a lot going on. What does that look like for you to kind of pull back and slow down? What is your self-care process, or your kind of keeping your wits about you and your wherewithal? What does that look like for you?
So I had to do a reset for myself. I'm, type A personality. I always like to fill my cup with 1,000 things, and I always like to chase things that are shiny. So for me, I had to flip that switch and take another route. Say, Karen, how can you slow down? And what does slow down look like for me? So this summer, what I've decided to do is really spend time on my deck, just taking in nature, taking in sounds, and not necessarily fill it with things, fill my calendar with something to do every single minute. I have to just be, and
Mm,
that's a struggle for me, whether it's
mm.
meditating or just being quiet. So for me, it's to do the opposite of what my nature is telling me to do, and breathing more.
Yeah, breathing more. Yeah.
Breathing more. Please stop breathing.
Yeah, it's incredible how that really is a conscious thing you have to do. Like if you catch yourself, you realize certain people, I know I'm that way, that I'm not breathing. I'm not breathing as regularly as I should be. And when I do, I don't meditate, I don't do breathing exercises, but when I just stop for a moment and really breathe, because it's like you, I'm trying to kind of juggle so many different things. It's almost like my body's like on instinct that if I hold my breath, I can move faster, whatever the hell that is. I don't know. But it's crazy how some people really do have to intentionally think about their breathing to really breathe correctly, and it makes all the difference.
That's right. And question my thoughts and not feel like I have to take action on every thought that comes in, and just really thinking about it a little bit more to say, what do I need to answer that's a quality thing to consider instead of all the noise?
So, what did that look like for you, being somebody like that all your life, and then having to reprogram?
Oh my,
Because it's one thing if you okay, I have to flip the switch and be a different way for part of the time. I know I have to do that, but then you have that programming of your entire life that's been that type A.
mhm.
How long did it take you to kind of get comfortable with shutting things off and relaxing and whatnot?
Oh my God, I'm still doing it. The term I have to impart in my brain is vujade. So deja vu means I've seen this before. And vujade means, how do I see the same thing with fresh eyes? So I have to literally stop myself, take a deep breath and say, Karen, what am I not seeing? What am I missing here? How can I see this same situation with fresh eyes? And what's the benefit of seeing it again? And so that causes me to stop, look at something, and then invariably I see something that I didn't see before. And that encourages me to do that as a practice, not just a one
Yeah.
and done, but as a practice.
Yeah, there's I've done that. I'm doing that more and more these days, mostly because I have kids. I don't know where the hell I would be if I didn't have kids, because when you have kids, you appreciate
Yes,
you appreciate your alone time. Let's be honest. You know,
yes, you do.
when they go to bed and you're just sitting there on the couch and just kind of decompressing from everything. I wonder where I would be without kids, because now I'm finding this solace and peace and quietness and really taking in things around me because of that. I have no energy for anything else.
That's right.
But there is really something to be said about, okay, yesterday I would have walked to the car, straight to the car, turned the car on. Now I find myself looking in the early morning, looking down the street, taking in the sky, taking in the sunrise. Like, it sounds like woo. It sounds like, I don't know, otherworldly, but there's just something about stopping and taking a look around, because we just have like that tunnel vision to get to the
Absolutely.
next thing.
And I think there's so many things we can learn from our kids. Even if you stop and ask them, what is it that you see?
Hmm.
And then having them answer, their answers will blow you away. You're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, how did they see that? How did they see that? Why do they think this? And they have these crazy little thoughts. And it makes you realize that you're so far away from that thought process that you, as a kid, we stop questioning. We
Yeah.
just go to answer. So I think it's just pulling on curiosity and pulling back, breathing, thinking, and reconsidering.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the most incredible things about being a dad of three kids now, 10, 6, and 3, it's amazing seeing them at different stages, um, looking at life differently because they're all so different. But in general, having kids and just the way they see the world, like the little wonder they pull out of the simplest of things. And meanwhile, we have to overcomplicate things. We have to overschedule things. We're trying to keep on the move because it's our instinct to just keep moving, keep moving. And, at certain ages, they can just sit there and tinker with the same thing for a while and just entertain themselves and build things and put things together and break just all that simplicity. So that's helped me slow down as well because, like you said, through the eyes of the child with their questions, with their comments, with their challenges, they
Absolutely.
they can make you question the things that you believe just based
Absolutely.
on, Dad, that doesn't make sense. Like,
I know. Or
why?
or when you don't have an answer. Because I was reading an article a long time ago, and I don't remember where I got it from. They said toddlers ask 396 questions a day, and adults, we only ask five.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a difference between the two, and how many things we might be missing, and how many relationships could be better if we ask questions, or we can be better leaders, better people on this earth by being endlessly curious, like a Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah, I think, does that expertly. He's endlessly curious. And I think we need to pull in curiosity as a critical factor for us moving into the future.
Yeah, what's interesting is we move through life, our careers, through education, trying to get to the point where we have all the answers, trying to be the specialist in whatever areas we're going into. I know I had that path, but then as soon as I did this podcast where I'm asking more questions, and there's standard questions because I want to get to certain answers, but I do a lot of rabbit holes and tangential questions and whatnot. But I found that each episode of this series makes me more curious for the next one.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm more satisfied in life now asking questions, more questions, getting to know my fellow human beings more than when I thought I had not all the answers, but I thought I had enough to just share. And I would ask, of course, but now I'm asking more. And each person, I don't know if it's selfish or what, but each person that I meet, it's almost like I start with a blank canvas at the start of this conversation, and just all the questions and all the commentary and the back and forth just paints this beautiful portrait or beautiful picture by the time we're done. So I see myself more satisfaction in life with more curiosity and more questions, shifting from that, feeling like you know enough, shifting to the questions, getting to know especially your fellow human beings.
Absolutely. 'Cause I think that's where we're missing the mark. And I'm not saying the only thing where we're missing the mark. There was a quote from Brene Brown who said, you can't hate people close up. And, and I'm not 100% sure if that's true.
Yeah. I know where she was
Like,
going with it. You're
yeah,
right.
but
Yeah.
it says once you get to know people, you
Yeah.
have a better chance of understanding what they're thinking and their positioning. Whether or not you agree, you can absolutely not agree with them.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
but there's an understanding and a possibility of connecting on a human
Yes.
level and a reconnection of humanity. Because I think that's kind of where things are broken, is that we've made it easy to break our
Oh yeah,
humanity.
yeah. Once you get in front of somebody out from behind the keyboard, thousands of miles away, if
Yeah,
you have a I'm convinced if you sat there for long enough, maybe somebody starts you off with a list of questions to ask each other until you feel comfortable with each other. But if it's just the two of you versus this group on this side, this group on that side, or the media telling you what these other people are thinking, I'm convinced people have more in common than they have differences. It's just the way everything is structured right now. It's just too easy to throw out a comment on your keyboard, on your cell phone, not have any consequences, not think about how it really impacts another human.
that's right.
Damn, we
Absolutely.
covered so much. Look at us in 20 minutes. Look at what we covered. Solving the world's problems. Karen, let's start off. And you had brought up Brene Brown in our last conversation. I remember that because I think that was the first time I spoke to anybody about Brene Brown, and I started listening to her podcast. I haven't read any of her books yet, but I love her attitude. So I don't know. She just brings it every time. Karen, so I read the bio, but who are you today? Can you, in your own words, can you give us some insight into the different types of work that you're providing your clients? I want to hear it in your voice and your words. What does that day to day look like so we know who the person is that's going to share this book with us?
So I'm an executive coach, and what I do is empower leaders to lead themselves first and others more effectively. And I think especially with managing complexity and now the human side of change. And so when I
Karen,
work, go ahead.
real quick though, when you say lead themselves, I don't hear that too often. So what does that mean to you?
So when I say lead themselves, is who you are is how you lead. So I think it's important for you to understand what you bring to the table, what you're bringing to the door, through the door, and managing your own emotional intelligence and the things that garbage and the good, all that comes in on the coats of your leadership. And I think if a leader is aware, that makes them a better leader, because when I'm coaching with leaders, it's really a transformative partnership that unlocks a leader's full potential. But then when we say the full potential, that could be dialing up something, it could be sharpening, it could be flow, it could be activating a new skill. All those could be on the table. But when I'm working with leaders, I help them create a blueprint for effective leadership and to be a leader of the time. And we were talking about zeitgeist. So how are you leading in this particular time? How are you helping your folks navigate change? I think that's important to know. And are you a special leader that creates a zeitgeist? So all that's on the table. So when I'm working with individual leaders, we do all that. We talk all about that and help them create their blueprint. And I also work with their teams and helping them work effectively as a group. And I love the work. I can't imagine doing anything else.
I know that feeling. So okay, so there is the executive coaching. You're working with the teams. What else you have out there?
So that's primarily what I do, because that's a lot. I mean, the individual leaders, and then when I'm working with teams, we're doing a lot in the area of conflict management, productive dissent, because I think there's a reason for dissent and a necessity for dissent in a time of change. Doing quite a bit in the area of change management. How do you navigate the pace that we're dealing with, and how do you maintain relationships, because relationships, I think, is everything in a
Yeah,
workplace, because I think work cannot be done without relationships. um,
absolutely.
so
And
I'm
that's
doing a
what I
lot
should
in
have
that.
asked was how deep you go, like the different types of work that you're doing as opposed to how much more you're doing. And I like the kind of the themes that you're touching upon. And I love the fact that you're asking leaders, like, how is your leadership relevant to the times today?
That's right.
Because leadership has tenets. It's got its common foundation. It's common tenets from ages ago that still apply. But then on the surface, it's like, how do you relate it to the work today, to the world today? So I think that's a great insight you bring, is the consideration of, okay, how is your leadership working with and against the world that's outside today? Because all of that impacts what people bring to work. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and I also think that leadership definitely is a role too, but leadership is a moment. I think everybody can have leadership moments. So it's not just the person who's in charge of a team that has an opportunity for leadership. I think we all have leadership moments, and many, many times in the workplace and in our personal lives. Some of us, in Little League, in our churches, all that I think is around the area of leadership. And I think we've fallen short in some ways, what leadership can do. And I think a refocus on the possibilities that can come with leadership, I think, is where we need to pay attention.
Yeah, like you said, it's everywhere. I just coached my son's 6 and 7-year-olds soccer team this spring. And it was amazing refining my leadership, my approach to the tone that I use, the words that I use, the encouragement that I'm putting out there, the questions that I have, like looking people in the eye. And these are 6 and 7-year-olds. But it was incredible to see my style with them compared to another coach, in particular, another coach, and it was just like yelling. And admittedly, he and I got kind of into it from across the field, because he wouldn't let anybody talk. And I was giving him a point about your team has a corner kick, just to jump into the story real quick. And he just kept like blowing his whistle. Never saw the whistle after this particular game. In any case, like, I got gratitude from the parents about my coaching, because they could see the impact on the other team and those kids versus my style of keeping them accountable, keeping them working hard, but at the same time making sure that I provide what they need. Support, tools, like all of it. So it's incredible how it doesn't matter what kind of environment you're in. And yes, I'm the coach, so yeah, you're the leader of the team, but little behaviors in the most random of moments make impact. So I hope that these kids remember that this is what leadership should look like not that. It shouldn't be about toxicity or anything like that. So I just love echoing that it is really apparent everywhere that you can have that kind of leadership impact, but you got to take advantage of it. You got to be able to step up in those moments where you think there is no leadership. It doesn't matter if you have a title or not.
Absolutely, because being a leader is also having the courage to step up, speak truth, and inspire others. Inspire others and modeling the way. Those kids will remember you.
Yeah.
They will remember you, and they'll be able to tell stories about you when they're in a leadership program. And they said, "Who impacted you as a leader?" They're going to say, "Coach John. I remember when he blah, blah, blah." And they'll tell this story, and you'll be surprised the impact that you have in those moments. So we do get the opportunity to be someone's good story or someone's bad story.
Exactly. So for anyone listening, whether you're a leader or not, a coach or not, just think about the moments in which you can step up and really set the pace, set the cadence, set the zeitgeist of that particular environment, whatever it may be. I think people just forget how much of an impact they can have. But in any case, thank you, Karen, for sharing all that. Now, to kind of getting an idea of how you ended up here, can you give me a breakdown of your path to now? I mean, we went into detail in the first conversation. I want people to listen to that for sure. But just maybe some highlights of how you started into your career, whether it was college, whether it was the impact of family, how you went into the workforce. What are the areas that really informed who you are today, Karen?
So if you ask my sisters, I come from a family of 7, and there's 6 girls and 1 boy. My brother's the oldest.
Oh, he's the oldest. Okay.
Yes. And I'm the oldest girl. And I think I've always been a coach, and my sisters will probably say she's always been bossy, but I think I've always been a coach because I've always loved the idea of impacting change and moving people from where they are to where they want to be. And that's pretty much what coaching is. And I grew up in the corporate arena. I spent almost 30 years in the corporate arena in various roles, um, individual contributor, also leadership. But the through line for me was helping develop people. I always loved that. And how I was introduced to coaching is I was taking a Toastmaster, I was involved in Toastmasters, and I was at a workshop, and I saw a woman on stage. Her name was Jenny Kravitz. I love her to death. And she was giving a speech about coaching and what it does in someone's life and how you can impact someone's life with change. And I knew then that I wanted to do that. And I knew that I wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it for the rest of my life. I tracked her down and I said, tell me about this coaching. What is it? Because no one was talking about it back in the early 2000s. And she told me about coaching, and I said, I want to do that. And I went through training, and the rest is history. And I was doing coaching while I was still in the corporate arena. But in the corporate arena, I helped create a coaching for men, a coaching program that we put about 350 leaders through in about 3 years' time. And what I learned from that is that you can really impact a person's trajectory in their career. And there's such a responsibility in leadership that I wanted to focus my coaching on leadership, leaders at all levels. I do quite a bit of executive coaching, but I coach in middle managers where it's messy, the messy middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been doing that ever since because I feel a responsibility. And that's what I'm doing here in Earth School, is a responsibility of helping people navigate change and impact others' lives. So that's my trajectory. And
Yeah, that's one of those pieces of leadership that I always like when it comes up, is how the impact that you're having on the people you're leading.
Mhm.
Not that you're leading them to get the work done today, but when you step away, when you walk away, kind of like what you said with me and the soccer team, what kind of mindset are you leaving them in? What kind of environment are you leaving them in? What kind of self-belief are you leaving them with? Like, how are you leaving these people better off than when you found them? So I'm always grateful when somebody brings up that it's not just the work you're doing in the moment, but how you impact those people once you're no longer in the picture for whatever reason, how they move on from there and build themselves up.
Absolutely. And coaching is really about agency. It's not about them becoming dependent on
Yes.
you. Yes, we do help give a little shot in the arm, but
Yes.
the process is around helping them build a toolkit to get leadership, to get understanding who they are in their bones so that it becomes second nature, authentically who they are as a leader, so they can then carry that on, and they're not carrying a leadership role or identity that's not their own.
Yes. Karen, so the gravitational pull for you towards coaching, was it because you were the oldest of the sisters? Did that play into it, or was it something you saw in your family, in school, anything like that influenced it? What was it that kind of crafted that coaching mindset for you?
I think it was my role in the family, because I am because it wasn't because I'm an extrovert compared to an introvert, because introvert, extrovert, there's excellent leaders in all those spaces and anywhere in between.
Mm-hmm.
I felt as an older sibling that I had a responsibility in helping my sisters, improve, or helping my sisters find their way. So I think that's where it began. And I just loved it. And I think it became a part of who I am. I'm not sure where the meld happened, but I think it happened early for me, where I can't separate the difference between when it happened and how it happened. And I think through the years, I think it happened in the workplace. And there's a term that I use, and I say a smurgeologist. So when I say a smurgeologist, I smurge all different experiences in my life into who I am and into the work that I do, whether it's books, meeting different people, children, all those experiences and all those things that you learn along the way. Either they become part of you, you let them go through you. That was interesting, you let them go through and out, or you take it in and it becomes part of your toolkit. So that dance, I think, has been happening for many, many, many years. And there's some stuff in there. So there's some crap in there, you know, but
Everybody has that.
absolutely everybody has that. And how do you
And
manage
that contributes to who you are just as much too, I would
Absolutely. And
argue.
knowing your blind spots and knowing
Yeah.
the things that you do that aren't necessarily that productive and how do you manage that, I think is critical as a leader. Because there's some things that we can park and manage, and there's some things that we can absolutely throw away, but there's some parts of us that are there that are over functioning parts of us, and how do we manage that?
So Karen, when you went into the workforce, where did you start out? What was it that drew you into the workforce? Were you able to do what you wanted, or was it just getting a job at first? How did that play? How did that play out? What was your introduction to the workforce?
What's so funny is originally I thought I was going to be a fashion designer, and I
I
thought I
could
was going
see
to go
that.
to
I could see
MIT.
that.
Uh, and the funny thing is, when I started working for an insurance company, and all of us in this insurance company came from different places. So I don't think any of us really, said, "Oh, I'm going to work for an insurance company." The money was good, the process was good, and the company was good. But for me, there was an opportunity for creativity. And I think that was something that was so important to who I was as a person, even as a kid. I used to do crazy stuff as a kid, and I was an entrepreneur as a kid. But the creativity, I think, was critical. I think if you don't exercise some level of creativity, it metastasizes something else, and it's not productive. It's either grief, rage, judgment, discontent.
Yes.
So I think the through line has always been creativity. So in each role that I took, there had to be a level of creativity, or I just couldn't do it for long. It was as important as air.
What did your trajectory or what did your path in your career look like? If you could just kind of give a breakdown of you jumped from this role to that role,
Yeah.
what did that look like?
So I went from fashion designer to working in a pharmacy as a manager.
That's a nice change.
Yes, yeah. And so I had an opportunity to be in a leadership role there. And I wasn't there too long before I moved into the insurance company where I spent 30 years. And in that position, I was first in customer service, answering the phone, clearing the queue, and doing all that. So what I learned from that experience is a structure, discipline, and I also learned what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do. Um, and the company was growing so quickly that I had an opportunity to get a leadership role quickly after I started working there. And from there, I took various roles I was in customer service, and then I flipped over to IT halfway in my career. And I think that was a turning point for me because I did something that was so out of my experience. And I had to be courageous to do that, to move to IT, because I didn't know anything about computers. And back in the day, we don't have the computers that we had right now. We called them dumb machines. Uh, but to me, it was a totally different world.
Yeah.
So I had to learn new things. I had to learn change management. There's a lot of things that I had to learn from that experience, but what it taught me was that I can do hard things. And
So you say, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. No, I was going to say, so you had mentioned you'd gotten into coaching based on the Toastmasters. So the Toastmasters was where did that fall in your career? Was it around IT time before that or?
It was around IT time.
Okay.
So when I went to IT, I took a role as a business engineer that required me to speak in front of groups, that required me to show up in places differently. And I was a nervous wreck. I was just like, oh my God, I gotta get a handle on this. So I joined Toastmasters. We had a Toastmasters group at that in that company. So I joined with the intention of learning how to be a better speaker. And the crazy part of that was that I would go to the Toastmaster meeting because I hated public speaking so much. I would join the Toastmaster meeting after it started so I didn't have to talk to anyone. And I would leave before it ended so I didn't have to talk to anyone. And I
Yeah.
did that for a couple times and I said, oh, come on, Karen, come on, stop it. And then I said, okay, I gotta get a handle on this. So I joined Toastmasters, and it was one of the best things that I ever did because it really forced me to do things that I was uncomfortable with and helped me to realize that discomfort is simply part of the ride, it's part of growth. And from there, um, I did different roles. I almost said the company. I did different roles there, and I loved what I did. I started to do individual contributor roles and also had folks reporting to me and vacillated between roles there, and I just loved it.
Karen, the next couple of questions, some of them you've already kind of answered, but I'm curious with this next one, how do you reconcile? I don't think I had this question in the last episode that we did together. How do you reconcile your childhood to who you are now? What is it you bring from your childhood to what you do now? I think you've given hints of it or you've been clear about what you do, but now that this is actually a question, is there anything you want to add based on what you've already shared about who you were as a kid and how that shows up today?
Yeah, I would say I was an entrepreneur as a kid, and I'm an entrepreneur now. When I was a kid, I always wanted to make money, and my father would entertain my whims. Earthworm. I had an earthworm business. So at night, I would water the grass so that the earthworms at night would come out, and I would go out there and pluck earthworms out of the ground at night and then put them in this giant box. And I had an earthworm farm. So I would sell earthworms to the kids that would go fishing. So they would knock at my door
Wow, look at
at
you.
6 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning before they would go, fishing. And I would sell them a, dozen worms. And I had a pretty good business. And so from there, I would run these business. I did lawn mowing. I would do all this. My mother was not thrilled with it, but my father encouraged that entrepreneurial spirit. So I knew I could do that. I knew I could make money doing creative things. And I think that helped me today as a entrepreneur, plan, do the grungy work. I mean, because, plucking earthworms out of the ground is not
Oh,
exactly,
absolutely.
it's not
How old,
sexy.
how old, how old were you when you were doing that?
I think I was like 10. I
So
was
what
10.
was it? Was there like a trigger? Was there something that you wanted to buy? How did that come to be? Just even that one, the earthworms.
Yeah. So I grew up in a family of seven. So we didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
So if there were things that I wanted to buy or get, I was going to get it with my own money. And I never felt like I wanted to ask my parents that. And I think that's older kid syndrome,
Yeah.
where you don't want to be a bother. You don't want to ask your parents for money they don't have. So I decided I was going to make my own money. So out of necessity and out of creativity, I think I learned how to make a living.
How'd you come up with that one though? The earthworms.
You know what? I don't know. You know what? I did. Because I also like to go fishing with friends, and in our neighborhood, we would all get up early in the morning, and we would go to Battersea Park in New Britain
Okay.
and fish. We would fish for the day, and then we were buying worms from a little tackle place, and I go, I can do that.
Yeah.
And I said, I can do that. I asked my father, could you get me a big box? And he did. He helped me fill it with dirt, and it was this huge box in our basement. And I had to tape it together when it would fall apart. So he helped spur that spirit, I think, in me.
That's incredible. That's amazing to see, especially as a parent. That's amazing to see your kid just take that kind of initiative, have that kind of resilience that this is what I'm going to try to do, especially that early in life. That's incredible.
Yeah, and
Care,
the
what?
takeaway, and the takeaway
Absolutely,
from that
absolutely.
is as I, when I was in roles where I had teams where everybody was different, everybody needs something different. I was in a family of 7 children. None of us are alike. I mean, we're alike in certain ways, but we're all very different. And my father treated me different than he might have treated
Hmm.
my sisters. So he gave me space to be who I needed to be and to do my best work. So I think the lessons from my father, the lessons from that experience probably carries with me to this day.
Yeah. That no leadership role, parenting can't really be cookie cutter.
Yeah,
There's like basic responsibilities and duties you have to your kids, but above that, it's kind of like customizing it to who they are as a person. And I love that. I love how you can do that and just do it differently and just pay attention to who they are, who they're trying to be, and yeah, keep the guardrails on when appropriate, and then just opening them up
that's right.
when they're not.
Yep.
Karen, what do you consider your superpower? I don't think that one was on the list of questions last time I talked to you. What do
It
you?
wasn't.
I hear so many great ones, but what do you consider your main superpower? The thing that you do that no one can take away from who you are.
So I think I help others to see, like I was talking about the Bujade, help others to see the same thing with fresh eyes. Help folks see a different perspective. And in the end, hope, but not hope by itself, because I think hope by itself is just, a good feeling,
Hmm.
but hope with action. I think it's the combination of those two that are necessary, um, and help them develop a belief that the future can be better and that each of us has a role in that. And we all have a unique role. So I think that is probably a superpower, if I had to say.
Absolutely. And then we've gone through the different meanings, the different forms, the different identities, the different looks to leadership. Next question is always, what does leadership mean to you? Is we've talked about so much, but is there anything else that you want to add or kind of put the exclamation point on? Anything you want to add?
I think if I was going to put an exclamation point on it, is to be authentic and to inspire others through uncertainty, which is, I think it's just part of the landscape now, but to make decisions that are impactful and to the betterment of the greater whole, not just myopically. Um,
Yeah,
think think bigger, um, so the greater whole, and to take a responsibility in that.
all right, Karen, let's jump to the book if you want. Why don't you introduce the book and how you came across the book?
So it's called the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, and I was introduced to the book. I saw an interview that Mel did with Oprah. I had heard about the book, and I hear a lot about a lot of books, so not that I wasn't really paying attention to it, but I, just came across it on YouTube. And in in the business that I'm in, I read lots of books. I read lots of books around leadership, self-help, and you name it. And so I was a little jaded about, what is this? What is this let them theory, and how is it even remotely different than anything that I've already read? Because all books have tentacles to other books, and I even think the let them theory has tentacles. But I think what is important in this book is that the let them theory has two parts to it. And the first part is let them, and it's about stop trying to control other people's actions, opinions, or choices. But the second part of that is to let me, where you take responsibility for what you do next. And the focus is on what you can control, your response, your boundaries, and your peace. So I think it's important to have those two pieces in order for the let them theory to work. Yeah.
Yeah, before we started recording, we had talked about the book, and I did read it specifically for this conversation with you, Karen. So I did read it. I do have it. And we had talked about how you would ask me what I thought about it. And I said, when I got it, I started reading it. I'm like, all right, what, because the cover just has let them on it, right? So as you're reading it and she's talking about the let them piece, you're like, okay, so that sounds like what we've all grown up with, who cares? Essentially, in my mind, who cares what other people think kind of thing. Obviously, it goes into more detail about the what the let them piece is, but that the important part, much like what you just said, is now let me. So maybe we've gone through life and it's always been like, okay, who cares what people think? I got to do my own thing. But then there came a point where you're like, okay, that's not enough.
Yeah.
Like just keeping toxic people out of my life or giving certain people room so they can be who they are that maybe I don't agree with. Okay, fine. But at the same time, it was always outward. What am I getting from other people? What am I sharing from other people? And that could still happen. But at the same time, it's like, okay, now let me, what is that? What are the steps I'm taking in this particular area with this particular person? If something they're doing isn't working out for me or I'm not happy with it, again, giving them that space. And I'm all about what I enjoyed the most about this was the accountability.
Yep.
In that people are going to do what they're going to do. To a certain point, obviously a matter of safety and health and concern of that nature, but people are going to do what they're going to do. I got to the point in life where if this is the choice that the person is making, what can you do? And for me, a good through line for this, you mentioned tentacles that you see in this book. One of the best ones is the 4 agreements, where it's kind of I think it was the 4th agreement, just do your best. And here's the thing, like these books, they're so simple in terms of the let them theory, let them, let me, the 4th agreement. I think it was the 4th one in the list. Just do your best. And it was that particular book that just outlined for me what that means. Like once you do your best, there's nothing more you can do. So why fret about it? So that to me was a great through line. But the way that she spelled out how this works in relationships and work and friendships, was good. All just because as I mentioned to you, she kind of catches you in the traps that you tend to fall in, and she kind of talks you out of those.
Absolutely. And I think one of the key parts of this book is that she acknowledges, which is true, that everything about the let me theory is about control, because we are hardwired for it. We're hardwired for control. We do like to create safety for ourselves, and we like to create safety for other folks. But the reality is that we don't really control other people. It's different when our children, like you said, in safety.
Yeah.
But once we understand that, there's a freedom in understanding what's ours and what's ours to hold on to and what's not for us to hold on to. And I think that's important. And in this book, she also talks about that we can't control people's actions, but it also is bidirectional, because we could be the one perpetuating control. trying to perpetuate control on someone else's life, on someone else's thinking, on their choices. So it is also a boundaries book, but it's also a mirror book. Because when I was reading it, I go, how many times have I done that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
You learn just as much about the let me piece. Yeah. Where like what I was saying before, just that quick example of, who cares what's going on with other people if you're not getting what you need. But this keeps you very much accountable. In terms of the first half, when you say let them, it talks about what you may be doing wrong, how you're showing up that maybe perpetuates their behavior, pushes them deeper into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the let me piece, obviously there's accountability there. So I just like how there's a lot of accountability. And I mean, she goes into explaining what the let them theory is, how it applies to you. And there's a section on managing stress, fearing other people's opinion, dealing with someone else's emotional reactions, overcoming chronic comparisons. And then it goes into your relationships. So mastering adult friendship, motivating other people to change, helping someone who is struggling, and choosing the love you deserve. Obviously speaking to love and relationships, and it's a theory obviously that applies to all those different areas.
Yeah, I think it applies to all areas of our lives. And when I think about the challenges that we are in as a country, the let them theory applies. And it's not about, like she says, it's not about being a doormat. It's about helping you to see people as they are and meet them where they are, whether you agree or not. And then hopefully having a conversation about it, but creating the space to allow them to decide what it is that they believe and what it is that they feel. And then you decide what to do next. What boundaries do you need to put in place? And sometimes does it mean that there's an end to a relationship? I think it can. But there's some agency in that. And I think people feel stuck sometimes. And I think with let them by itself, you can get stuck. You can get stuck in that piece in between let them and let me. And you could just say, try to toss the relationship to the side. But if you don't deal with it and make some kind of decision as to what you're going to do, it revisits in some way. I think it can revisit, especially if it's someone you love.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate you bringing up how this works in the matter of the world today, that it's not just in your circles, but how you interact with these people that you don't disagree with on a regular basis, that you have conflicts with. Because, I mean, what gets us in trouble is so much trying to make people fit in the box that we want them to fit in.
Yeah.
It's incredible how much of the arguments that we get into or you see online are, you're not doing what I want you to do.
That's right.
Instead of, just let them and see how I can, if they come at me or if they make a certain argument, how can I rebut those? But trying to shape them from the get-go into what you expect them to be, I think that's anybody's first reaction is kind of to get defensive.
Yeah. And I think to your point, we get defensive and we stop listening. And I think there's a point where you can just say, okay, we agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And then what do we do with it from here? So either we can maintain a relationship with boundaries or the relationship can end at that point. But at least you're making a choice. You're making an active choice to decide what's best for you emotionally, mentally, or whatever that may be. So I think this book talks about having choice and agency, and I think it's bi-directional agency.
So, Karen, what did this look like in your life when you read this book, when the lesson sunk in? How did you find yourself using these in your everyday, whether it's work, relationships, discussions, community, whatever it may be?
Yeah, so I think it tapped into lots of different parts of my life, but I'll talk about one. I've been married for 38 years, and
Oof,
I've known
congrats.
my husband for 43. And so I'm on the couch and I'm reading the book, and I'm at the section where it's talking about the relationship. And that there was some self-conviction in that section, and I kept looking over at my husband. He said, what are you reading? I said, oh, nothing. Oh, nothing.
Yeah.
But the part that really had some conviction for me is I think we think that we can somehow change our spouse or our significant other. And here I am married for 38 years, and I think sometimes I'm still trying, you know. And the part that really kind of sunk in deep for me was the part that says, are they going to change? Yes or no? And if they don't change, you know, and we're not kids. My husband and I have been married for 38 years. Um, so is it a showstopper? And if the answer is not a showstopper, if you're not going to end the marriage and you're not going to walk away, then you're going to have to then let me. You're going to have to make a decision about that. You're going to have to accept this as part of the relationship, but you can put boundaries around it. So what do? You put boundaries in place so that you're okay with it. And I think that was important because even after 38 years of marriage, that was still a part of me that I can learn to manage it. So I've started to do some things differently, even after 38 years. And to me, it's made a difference. And I'm saying any book that I can pick up that after 38 years of marriage, I feel like I've learned, had an aha moment,
Yeah.
is worth paying attention to. So I think that was a big deal for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible in terms of where you are in adulthood, where you are in marriage, and you still had the ability to learn at that point. Because so many people were set in our ways by a certain age.
Oh,
You know, we're set in our ways, even complaining and moaning about certain things, unless we're stopped and questioned by a book like this. Like, what is that really getting you? You know, what are you losing? Are you losing? Yes or no? Like all these different considerations to help you kind of focus and rein in. Because again, like everything else that gets us in trouble, we're just kind of reacting to what's going on in our lives instead of stepping back
that's
and
right.
working on it. We're just trudging through, trying to survive the stresses of everything coming at us instead of stepping back, reassessing, prioritizing. That this was it was a good eye opener about letting things be, letting people be, but at the same time, okay, it doesn't just stop there. Where that's the piece that you need is letting go of people's BS or whatever they have going on. No judgment.
Mhm.
But now, what are you going to do? Because I think in most of life, most of who we are, most of how we feel is based on what we get from others, especially if you've been like a people pleaser your entire life, or it's your personality, who you are, has banked on your connection with others.
Absolutely.
We're all so different. It sounds like common sense, but we're just all so different in what we want, how we get activated in life, what we want to see in life, what we have patience for, what we don't, and we stick in our ways, we stay in those ways all throughout life. So it is about kind of pruning and stepping back and kind of taking a breath about what it is you want.
Yeah. And I think this book in the let me makes you evaluate, what does love look like? What does being a citizen of the world look like? In what part do I want to play? So I think it's also an accountability model. There's accountability. So let me is the accountability part. And there's a quote in the book where she says, when you operate in a way that makes you proud of yourself, it doesn't matter what other people think, because you know the truth. So I think this book makes you evaluate the quality of a person that you are, and can you love deeply, and what does love look like in all its forms? Can you be respectful, and what does that look like? So I think there's a lot of things that it brings up that you have to decide how you're going to be and what kind of citizen of this world, or how you're going to be in a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it wakes you up to how proactive you have to be for yourself. Lessening your reactions to others, because we can get lost in those, and enhancing your proaction based on what you need and assessing where that falls based on where you are in your life. You know, it's funny how she talks about moving to different parts of the country and losing friends, or just your friendships evolve. You become different people. So you kind of let them be, see what happens, but at the same time, you have to take chances with new people and new experiences. So we've mentioned it a couple of times. I do love the accountability piece, where it's not just surviving in what is, but also building what you want to see. I don't think we do that proactively enough. We're just so busy and have so many things coming at us. So I think the book was a great reminder, and the way in which she lays it out, researches it, talks about different situations, you can see that it's applicable to all those worlds.
Yeah. And one additional thing that I thought was really important is, one of my kryptonite is being gaslit. Oh my God, I don't like to be gaslit. And I think this let them theory helps me manage that in a productive way, so that I don't come at someone. You know, when someone's gaslighting me, the first thing you do is self-protect. You Full Metal Jacket, pop, 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 pop. You know, you put all that armor on it and you're ready. But I think this book allows you to, here's the stimulus, and let me have a response that's productive. And it doesn't mean that it can't be direct.
And like you said before, early on in this conversation, it's not about letting yourself be walked on.
That's right.
I think that's a very big caveat, is this does not mean just let people do whatever they want.
Absolutely. And it's about not avoiding difficult conversations for fear of someone's emotional response.
Yes.
You know, because I think all of us have had someone in our lives somewhere along the line that emotional discharge caused you to back off, and they're weaponizing it. They've weaponized it to an art form, and that's caused you to back off. I think this book encourages you to have those bumpy, uncomfortable conversations where you're advocating for yourself. And I think that's important. I think that's also part of the let me, is agency, advocacy for yourself, and maybe even of others. If you're in a leadership role, you might have to do that.
Very good point. Very good point. Yeah, because you see it mentioned, you see it covered, but for a leader to point out the person they're leading's own agency, where if you see that they're having an issue, whatever it may be, letting that take place, but at the same time, helping them reconcile with and recognize their agency. You don't see that too often, because I don't know, maybe some leaders don't think that's their place, or they just don't feel comfortable in that area. But kind of giving somebody the tools to build themselves up, to see possibility that's there, to look out for their best interests as well, as long as it's balanced against, everything that they have going on in the organization and their company and their team. So I think that's a great place to place that is in leadership, and helping somebody recognize that they have that ability.
Absolutely. And I think it's a significant part of coaching. When I'm working with individual leaders or teams, what we're creating is a coaching culture. So that accountability piece is helping them recognize that that's really the let them theory in a different model. Um, because having them understand where they can make change,
Hmm.
helping them
Yeah.
figure out how to make change, and then holding them accountable for the change and their development. Because the leader's role is to inspire and motivate someone, but the development, your development, you own.
Yeah. Yeah. I was working with somebody and they were complaining about their boss, and it was just always constant complaining, constant complaining. So it was a matter of asking them how they felt, because it may have felt good for them to constantly complain about their boss, but they realized that that's the furthest that they were going. Something would happen, they would complain, get it off their chest, and move on to the next thing. Instead of, and it was holding them down because they were absorbing some of that toxicity. They were absorbing some of their own perception that the boss felt that they weren't good enough. So they were holding themselves back. So that's one of those prime examples, is like, okay, let them say or believe what they're going to say. What steps are you going to take to build yourself up or improve? Criticism hurts. You have to consider the source, yes, but every once in a while, it's like you have to look at all of it and say, okay, is there any truth here that I have to work on something? So instead of just saying and venting about what was happening, it's like, all right, let that happen, but now what can you do about it? It's always that back half that people forget, they don't consider. And that's where
Absolutely.
we get in trouble.
It's taking your power back. And to your point, when they're
Yeah.
ruminating about what their boss is doing, and it might be true. It
Yeah.
might be true that all the things they might be telling you are true.
Hmm.
But so how do you get yourself out of that cycle? It's almost like when we were kids, and I don't know, John, you're younger than me. So when you used to throw rocks in one of those tumblers and tumble, tumble, tumble until it came out smooth. Well, I think when someone's stuck in that cycle of telling that story, they're in that tumbler.
Yeah.
So in order to get out, you have to take action. And I think this let them theory or a coaching model makes you face that and then help you realize that the power is within you to make that change. So now, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. And that particular instance, it wasn't a coaching relationship. It was somebody I was working with.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a constant conversation every couple days. Different situations would come up, same kind of venting. And I would say to them, okay, now what? And it was like a blank stare. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, think about the energy that you're utilizing. I can tell how frustrated you are. Like I could see it in your body. You're not blinking. You're that enraged. We can't have this every day where you come vent. Like I'll help you. Like, what do you need? What do you need to move forward? Because you can't have or let this person take all your credibility away. You've gotten to this position where you are now. Obviously, you have a work product that people respect, but you can't fall under this where it's coming in to vent every other day. What are you doing? What are you doing to maintain your own confidence? Again, like you said, Karen, your own agency.
That's
You
right.
know, don't let anybody take anything away from you. You can learn from certain criticisms. We can't be so bold to think, no, I'm not going to listen to anything anybody says, but don't let anybody take anything away from you. That's a trap that so many people fall into.
Right. Because somewhere along the line, there's some belief that they have when they're stuck like that. So they're holding on to some belief that's holding them back. And once they work through that, say, who would you be if you didn't believe that? Who would you believe without that story right there? What would you believe
Yeah.
if that story didn't exist? What would you do differently if that didn't exist? What would you be doing now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I love the jolt that this this book gives folks that read it. And I'm not saying that everything that's in the book they're going to go, that applies to me. I don't think there's a single book that does that. But is there an important nugget, concept, or a big aha from this book that allows you to move forward, whether it's entangled in conversations that you're having with your family, entangled with conversations you're having with your spouse, or even, to your point, on social media? Where are you participating that's not elevating the human experience, but taking away from it?
Yes. Karen, in wrapping up, what are you up to these days? Is there anything you want to share about, or go into anything I didn't cover, anything I didn't ask, anything at all? The floor is yours.
So one thing that I'm doing, and I said I wasn't going to take on another certification, but guess what? I chase things that are shiny. I'm doing a certification with a group called Points of View. And their Points of View is a powerful coaching facilitation system that invites people to see with new eyes, reflect deeply, and turn insight into action. So there are these cards, these photograph cards, that allow you to look at something and see different things, and see situations differently, and with powerful questions that allow you to ask questions about topics or situations that you wouldn't normally ask, to kind of snap you out of where you are and take you into the next step. So I think it's kind of like the let them theory.
So is it for personal coaching and or leadership coaching, or is it just focusing on the leadership aspect?
It's personal coaching, leadership coaching, working with groups, and it's called Points of View. You can see it, you can find them on LinkedIn. But I love the concept of it. They've been around for quite a few years, at least 20 years. And I think their tools help people see things with fresh eyes. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm almost done with the certification. And I love the experience of it. And I'll be using it in my coaching and working in organizations.
Yeah. I'm game for anything that helps people see their usual world through a different lens, a different perspective, anything at all. I think sometimes we're just too much a witness to life, getting through it, and not enough of a participant, which means you can be learning, listening. To participate doesn't mean actually doing something, but at the very least taking in, listening, especially different perspectives. I think a lot of us talk about it ad nauseum, but the diversity of thought is important. Yep. If you're in that tunnel, that's all you're seeing, and you have blind spots everywhere. So anything that has to do with people just seeing something differently, yep. I think people would be amazed how differently they could look at something with a few prompts, with a few questions from a coach such as yourself. I mean, you've seen it in coaching yourself. I've seen it on here with guests where you ask a certain question and they say, no one's ever asked me that. I've never thought about it that way. You've got me thinking in real time. So I'm game for anything that causes somebody to rethink the way that they've always been programmed. So I look forward to hearing about your certification, how it goes, and how you get to use that in your work.
Yeah, I'll be posting about it on LinkedIn. But if there's any encouragement, I say for everyone, lift your head up. Lift your head up and be curious.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a major tool in this what do you call it, Earth School that we leave this on the table.
School that we're all a part of,
and we don't look around. And again, we covered the Let Them Theory, a life-changing tool that millions of people can't stop talking about, by Mel Robbins, and the book came out in December of 2024. Karen, thank you for sitting down for this conversation. Thank you for coming back and trusting me with another talk.
Love it, John. Anytime.
And if there's anything that I might have missed in the conversation, anything that you're curious about, anything I should have asked, we're limited on time, I go down these tangents. But if there's anything you want to know, let me know. I'll reach out to Karen, see what kind of additional guidance, insight, knowledge, anything, wisdom at all that I can get back. In the meantime, thank you for watching, listening, and subscribing, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.